Right, okay, we're ready. So good morning and welcome to the latest edition of Procurement Pulse. Firstly, as always, a little bit of housekeeping. All cameras and microphones have been disabled and this webinar is being recorded and your name may be visible. We do edit the video after the recording and we upload it onto our YouTube channel. So check that out at KCS Procurement Services on YouTube. I'm Richard, part of the direct channel team here at KCS Procurement Services, if you don't know me already. But firstly, I'd like to welcome our special guest speaker, Lesley, the lovely Lesley, who is from the Lifecycle Group.
Hi, thank you for having me.
That's not a problem at all. MJ will give you some more details. So over to the main man himself, Mr. MJ.
Thank you, Rich. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today on our March edition of Procurement Pulse. And yes, we're excited to have Lesley, who's a procurement manager at our sister company, LMG, Lifecycle Management Group, with us today to give us a lot of information about further competitions, how LMG can support the public sector with their procurement activities. So Lesley will be giving us a load of insight. That will be followed by a Q&A session. We've had a few questions submitted, so we'll get those across to Lesley. We'll have a bit of a mention on what's going to happen next month. We're going to switch it up a little bit. Richard will give you a bit more information about how we're going to switch up the content a little bit. And we'll also have a look back as to the Procurement Act Expo we attended and exhibited at, I think it was it March? It was March, wasn't it?
Yeah, 2 or 3 weeks ago.
2 or 3 weeks ago, that's right. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Lesley, and Rich will be doing the slides and we can crack on and over to you, Lesley.
Thanks, MJ. Good morning, and thank you all so much for making time to sit and listen to me talk to you guys about further competitions. Before I start, I'm just going to introduce the team at Lifecycle Management Group. You will see a beautiful selection of photographs in front of you, left to right, top to bottom. My name is Lesley Brady. I am one of the procurement managers. To my right but left, if I'm in the picture, is Leca Light, Andy Armstrong, and bottom row, left to right, Jan and Emma. Emma is our support, and the other 4 of us are procurement managers. So we have all worked for Lifecycle Management Group for many years collectively and have an array of skills when it comes to procurement and managing further competitions and managing tenders. Next slide, please, Rich.
There you go.
Thank you. So a little overview about what we do. I mentioned that we've got lots of experience running tenders for the public sector and also further competitions. With tenders, we will manage a tender depending on your SFI, standing financial instructions, depending on how much money you can spend before you have to explore which is the best route to market. We can look at tendering either below or above threshold, and we can also help with managing further competitions through various frameworks. I know KCS Procurement Services have a huge array of frameworks available to use across the public sector. Next slide, please, Rich. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the benefits of running a further competition. So Lifecycle Management Group and KCS Procurement Services have been working in collaboration to bring the skills that the KCS Procurement Services have with the skills that the team at Lifecycle Management Group have. So KCS has the frameworks, as I mentioned. Lifecycle Management Group has the skills to support running further competitions. So you don't necessarily always need to run a further competition. If you are using a framework, you can sometimes direct award. But if you do decide to run a further competition, then we have the skills at Lifecycle Management Group to support you through that process. The resources within the procurement team, which I've just been through with you, we've got many years experience of supporting with the process of tendering and further competitions, and in collaborating with our colleagues at KCS procurement services, we also have access to a wide range of frameworks available, and we can explore options should you have the need to run a further competition to make sure that we're going to achieve best value by actually exploring that option for you. So that's a brief overview of the benefits of running or working with KCS and Lifecycle Management Group should you need to run a further competition. And we'll have the next slide, please, Rich. So I'm going to explain a little bit about how a further competition is run. For those of you who have a desire to run a further competition but don't necessarily have the knowledge to know where to start. So the first thing that the team at LMG would do once we have an opportunity to explore a further competition, we would discuss the requirements with the customer to understand exactly what it is they need to achieve. What is it they're hoping to, are they procuring a new contract for a particular service? Are there alternative suppliers available to be able to help you with your needs, or is it an exclusive service that only one company can provide you with? So we will discuss requirements and understand exactly what it is you need and help you to explore the options available to you. Once we have a better understanding of what it is you want to achieve from your contract, we will help to support with drafting the documents that you need to run a compliant further competition. So we would need to look at your technical specification. We would need to understand the sorts of questions that you would need to ask to make sure that you are getting the service that suits the requirements, or it helps you to achieve your requirements. And once we've got all of the paperwork, all the documentation, we've agreed which terms and conditions the contract will be procured under, then we would look to issue the further competition out to all of the suppliers on the framework which you choose to use. So in doing so, we would use our Optimize system. It's been designed in-house to make sure that we have all of the information required to send out to all of the bidders. It enables suppliers to ask clarification questions directly, and we can then seek the responses to those questions and then share that with all of the suppliers on the framework to make sure that each supplier is being treated fairly. Once the further competition closes, there's a deadline, everybody submits their responses, and then the portal will close. We will open the portal and review all of the documents and all of the information which we have asked for, and then we enter the evaluation stage, and that's done in two parts. We would look, Lifecycle Management Group typically look at they review all of the documents to make sure that everything we've asked for has been provided. Once we have a good understanding of what has been received, we will look at the financial evaluation. We will then present that to the customer, to the client, so they can see exactly what we've asked for, what's been received, and then they would review the technical service delivery section to understand that the suppliers are actually giving the service that is required. Once the evaluation process is complete, we would then feed back to the suppliers that have submitted a bid, and then we would move forward to award stage. Once the contract has been awarded, then we would pass that over to the customer to then liaise directly with their new contractor to provide the service that they need. So that is a relatively brief overview of how a further competition would be run. There is more to it once you're actually into the nitty-gritty of running the process, but that's just a brief overview just to sort of give you an idea of how Lifecycle Management Group would collaborate with KCS procurement services to provide the service that you need. Next slide, please, Rich. So the next steps, if you decided that you want to explore the option of running a further competition. If you don't know whether a direct award is the right thing for you to do, the best thing is to contact James Drury. James will help to identify whether the services that Lifecycle Management Group can provide are in line with what it is you need. I'm also available, Lesley Brady, should you need to speak with me about anything. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have, and my email address is there on the slide for you. So that's just a brief overview of what a further competition is, how we would manage it should you have a requirement to run a further competition. And like I say, if you have any questions, please do get in touch.
That was perfect. Thank you, Lesley. Yeah, very well done. I know it's quite daunting sitting here talking to me and MJ, but actually we're not that bad. So that was really, that was really helpful, really informative, and I'm sure everybody out there that's got any questions will obviously get in touch. So we have got some questions for you, though. Unfortunately, you're still on the spotlight. Okay. It's like being a mastermind now. Can we direct award? Can we just direct award through a framework?
Yeah, you can direct award through a framework if there's only one supplier that can provide the service. Like I mentioned earlier on, if there are other suppliers that can provide a service, then the best thing to do to make sure that you're actually getting best value for money is to run a further competition.
Yeah.
So yes, you can direct award, but there are circumstances when direct award isn't necessarily the correct way to procure the contract, especially if there are alternative suppliers and alternative options available to you. I think with a direct award, you need to be able to justify that you are you've kind of covered all of the bases. So, for example, if you think that it's going to provide you with the service that you need and you're confident that there's nobody else that can provide the service, then direct award is certainly something, as long as you can justify your reasons.
Perfect. One thing that we hear quite a lot, Lesley, especially with those that are new to procurement, is that they're not too sure which framework to use because the scopes can be quite similar. So how would you be able to support someone who's not too sure as to what framework to use?
Okay, so the best thing to do if somebody isn't sure is to make contact with us to let us know what it is they do want, and then we can help support them to match the correct framework to their requirements. That's probably the easiest thing to do. Have a conversation and just get to the bottom of what it is somebody really needs.
Yeah, perfect. Another one here. Can we pick the winner from the bids received?
Well, you can't select as in cherry pick who you would prefer to provide the service, unfortunately. As much as we'd all love to be able to pick who we want to, we are governed by certain rules and regulations, so we need to ensure that we are treating each supplier that takes time to submit a bid through the framework. We are treating them all fairly, and we are acting in a clear and compliant manner, and in order to do that, we have to do what we say we're going to do. So when we draft the documentation at the beginning, we will explain in the information documents what we're going to do with the information we're asking suppliers to provide us. So we have to make sure that when we carry out the evaluation, we're doing that in line with what we said we're going to do. So as long as we do what we say, then we are behaving in a compliant way. So that does mean we can't just cherry pick who we want the contract to go to. We have to make sure that each of each supplier is scored in line with the methodology that we set out at the beginning of the process.
Cool. So we've got a question here that was submitted earlier in the week. Can we cancel the process at any point if we change our mind?
So if you change your mind, yeah, absolutely, you can cancel the process, but you have to be very clear in your justification to why you want to cancel the process, and that has to be communicated to all of the bidders that have been invited to submit a bid. Like I mentioned before, in procurement, you have to make sure that you're treating everybody the same and you're being fair and transparent. So yes, you can cancel it, but as long as you're clear in your reasons why, and you're not leaving yourself open to a risk of challenge, then yeah, absolutely, it can be cancelled.
Perfect. I think this is the last question. There you go. Then you can stop speaking if you want to. We get, myself and MJ get this quite a lot, actually, you know, from people, again, that probably new to procurement or not used us before. But you know, is there any sort of like, how long does it take to, you know, run a further competition?
It depends on the complexity of the service required. So if it's quite a straightforward service and there are a handful of suppliers that can provide that service and you know exactly what you want and your technical specification isn't too complex, then it can take 3 to 6 months. I always like to allow as much time as possible, because if we rush through this, things will get missed, things perhaps won't get thought about, and this is your one opportunity to get the contract that you need right. So allowing yourself plenty of time to be able to do that will make sure that the contract that you end up procuring is in line with exactly what you need. For the more complex procurements, it can take longer, 6 to 9 months, but again, it depends on the complexity of it.
Excellent. Well, that's it for questions. That's you done.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
No, that's fine. No, that's fine. You're now part of the Procurement Pulse team. There's obviously a few of us now that are knocking around. So you're now a new member. Hopefully we'll get some more in. So thank you again. We're going to move on now to what's happening next. But we've got some special stuff lined up, really. We've discussed Procurement Pulse and how we can sort of like take it to the next level. And some exciting stuff's coming on the next edition. We're looking at perhaps doing some video content that we can share rather than doing sort of these live sessions. Obviously we can still record it, so there's lots of little things that we're thinking about that's coming out. All I'll say is look out for some communications, look out for some posts on LinkedIn and things like that, and hopefully it's something that will well, it could be very exciting. You don't know. Obviously we're all about trying new things and you know, trying to up the profile of Procurement Pulse and obviously KCS, and just to talk about procurement and frameworks and how we can support you. So hopefully this is another step forward. Again, if anyone wants to join us on any of these sessions, feel free. Hopefully now Lesley's done it, we'll get more from LMG to join us. I'm going to hand you back over to MJ now. He's going to talk about what we did a couple of weeks ago. MJ.
Cheers, Rich. I look forward to the start of your YouTube career. The last month, it seems like a lifetime away now, we were at the Procurement Act Expo and we were exhibiting, which we were really privileged to be able to do so. We had a really good time. We met a lot of the customers that we sort of speak to over the phone on Teams, and on some occasions we put faces to the names that we've been speaking to regularly. It was really good in terms of footfall, lots of engagement, lots of energy as the new Procurement Act's due to come into place towards the end of the year. And actually we spoke to a load of different organizations that maybe haven't heard of us previously. So all in all, it's been really successful. There's some pictures there. The stand looked amazing. So thank you to the marketing team. Really appreciate all of your hard work. And there were some really interesting seminars from what I've been told. There was so much footfall, we didn't get a chance to go out and listen. But it's looked like a really successful event. And I hear they're already planning a follow-up to after the Procurement Act has been released in around March. So hopefully, if you've got some time in your schedule, we'd like to see you there. But all in all, amazing event. Thank you to everyone who came and said hello and got some of the free chocolates. I think Lesley got some chocolates there.
Yeah.
I was there. Did you manage to fix your stand, Rich? Because that was a little bit wobbly.
It was a little bit. Yeah, I managed to sort of wing it slightly, but yeah, it wasn't too bad. Thank you. Thank you.
But I just want to thank Lesley. Clear, concise. The information was really useful. Get in touch with those details. We can share the contact details for Lesley and James. Those are our contact details. As ever, you can find us on LinkedIn. Those are email addresses and mobiles, and soon you'll be able to find us on YouTube as well. Thank you very much. All that's left to be said is keep your finger on the pulse.
The Procurement Pulse. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Take care.